Good day, everyone. It's JB coming to you from somewhere in the record sphere. We're back, and we're looking at specific genres in my record collection. Today, we're jumping into the jazz and vocal collection, a mix of music and vocal artists who defined an industry of fusing together different kinds of music to create the great artists that I'll be covering in today's episode. So let's jump right in. Beginning in the A section, there's Al Jarreau with the album Heart's Horizon on Reprise Records, 1988. Al Jarreau was born in 1940 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he had been singing since the age of 4. Now, in the mid-70s, he was signed to a record contract, and his debut album, We Got By, received much acclaim. Heart's Horizon is his 10th studio album and received gold status. Jazz great George Duke helped produce the album, and Bobby Caldwell helped write some of the songs, and he played on the album as well. The album as a whole is great, but some of my favorite songs include All or Nothing at All, written by Bobby Caldwell, Pleasure Over Pain, Yo Jeans, that also features Bobby McFerrin, and the R&B-inspired 10K High.
Okay. Would you like to come along? We can sing a simple song. If you want to name the tune, you're invited. I'm so glad that you're my friend. Did I say I think we'll win? Though the fight is so often one-sided.
Speaking of jazz and R&B influences, Amy Winehouse is on deck next. The debut album, Frank, appeared in 2003 on Island Records. Now, I've read that the album is called Frank partly because of her love for Frank Sinatra and partly because she's actually so frank in her lyric writing. It's a no-holds-barred delivery. The album features Moody's Mood for Love, Stronger Than Me, There's No Greater Love, and others. A biopic of Amy Winehouse titled Back to Black will outline her rise to fame, pleasures, pain, and ultimate status in the music industry. A few Bob James albums up next, the first being Heads. This came out in 1977 on the Columbia record label. The album also features Eric Gale, Dave Sanborn, and Grover Washington Jr. The album features a cover of Boz Scaggs' We're All Alone and Peter Frampton's I'm In You, but also features Bob James' original Nightcrawler, one of my favorites from the album. More Bob James with All Around the Town from 1981. This is live recordings of some of Bob's treasured compositions, including two of my favorites, Angela, the theme from the TV series Taxi, and Touchdown. Bobby McFerrin up next with his 4th studio album, Simple Pleasures. If you hadn't heard of Bobby McFerrin before this album, you couldn't get away from him after this album came out. The song Don't Worry, Be Happy hit the airwaves in 1988 and took the whole world by storm. We couldn't get enough of McFerrin's happy-go-lucky tune, and who could blame them? Its infectious musical stylings and McFerrin's own jazz a cappella style capture the best in all of us. The album showcases a lot of brilliantly covered songs in all of Bobby McFerrin's style, including Drive My Car by the Beatles, Susie Q, Them Changes, and Sunshine of Your Love, as well as a few McFerrin-penned songs, including Don't Worry, Be Happy, All I Want, and the title track, Simple Pleasures. Bobby McFerrin's wonderful prowess in being able to be his own vocal instruments is actually really cool, captivating, and very enchanting. Now, on a side note, if you haven't heard or seen his performance of a condensed version of The Wizard of Oz, I highly suggest you check it out. You can find it on YouTube. The Heidi-Ho Man, Cab Calloway, up next. This cat can swing with some of my favorite vocals from the 30s and 40s, including Honey Dripper, Jungle King, Everybody Eats When They Come to My House, Jump and Jive, and Hey Now, and of course we can't forget Minnie the Moocher.
Folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a red-hot hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest frail, but Minnie had a heart as big as a whale. Hide, 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 hide.
Cab Calloway grew up in New York, and after a short stint in Chicago for law school, he went back to New York to pursue his dream of becoming a singer. He performed in Fats Waller's band, The Hot Chocolates, then led his own band at the famous Harlem Cotton Club, where his eccentric song and dance routines helped to grow his distinctive reputation. Well, if you're speaking of distinction, we can talk about a guy born in St. Louis, Missouri, but whose sound is one of mambo and Latin grooves. This jazz musician holds one of the sleekest and most distinctive sounds in that area, Cal Tjader. The album Soul Sauce came out in 1964 on the Verve label. This is an album that my dad had in his collection, so the whole album, especially the title track Soul Sauce, is burned into my brain. Soul Sauce is actually a Dizzy Gillespie original, covered by Cal Tjader, who adds his personal mix of Afro-Cuban grooves to spice it up. To end off the ABC of today's jazz and vocal genre, I have Carmen McRae's Yesterdays. Carmen McRae is considered one of the most influential jazz vocalists of the 20th century and is remembered for her behind-the-beat phrasing and ironic interpretation of lyrics. She sings about life in all of its fullness, through its tragedies and comedies and everything in between. Now, I originally purchased this album to hear her interpretation of Strange Fruit, originally sung by Billie Holiday. Carmen's haunting version brings forth just as much deep emotion as the original. The lyrics were drawn from a poem published in 1937. The song protests the lynching of Black Americans with lyrics that compare the victims to the fruit of the trees.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
Jazz can be about many things while it expands the mind, the heart, and the ears. It's the trifecta of what we want music to be and provides direction in the understanding of sound and of ourselves. It's uniquely American, and so whether you dig it or would rather just leave it behind, you can't deny the influence jazz music has had on so many cultures of change in music today. So I'm going to leave you today with more from a previously talked about album, Bob James's Heads, and the self-titled composition. I'll be back with more jazz and vocal-styled albums when I return with a new episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.